Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now, guys? We are in the middle of the eye of the storm that is this summer transfer window. Pre-season has gone underway. We've started to see some of the green shoots of progress from the training pitch already. We've already started to see some new, fresh faces joining in the squad from the transfer window business. But we've already done to some mixed responses, some mixed reviews as well, of course. But guys, we are quietly sitting and slipping into a bit of a winger deficit, a bit of a winger crisis. Nicolas Kuhn has been our big money outgoing transfer already this summer, and we're starting to get rumours and, other things develop that the likes of Tilio, Yang, Palma might be on their way out the door as well. And when we have a look at how the squad is actually sitting right now, I'm not sure we can afford to let all these guys walk out the building without having the dominoes ready to fall behind them to replace them in the Celtic depth chart, as well as, them actually being players that are better than the ones that are leaving, so that we're actually moving forward as a squad. In the video today, we'll have a look at how we're sitting for the wingers, who I would go into the market and try and pursue for the hoops, as well as who we've also been actually linked to go out and fill these spots in the squad, as it were. At any point in the video today, if you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Get into the comment section down below and let me know where you sit. What's your thoughts and feelings on the winger department at Celtic? How badly do we need those reinforcements? Should we chase all those guys out the door? Is there anyone you would maybe say, hold on, you just stay here a little bit longer until we actually get the replacements in? Always interested and excited to see the comment sections on these videos, and I'm sure this one is going to be flames, as it always is. But yeah, let's just get stuck straight into this one, because we've had some developments on the tactics board on the depth chart that we cover here on the channel. We've now kind of got the fringe players, the ones that we suspect to leave the club, in grey, which is Kuhn, Palma and Tilio. I've also tried to update this a little bit with the players, the young players that are on pre-season duty still at this point in the season. I'm still seeing the likes of Izaguzzo, Micardo, Kyle Ewer, Donovan, Ben Summers, Montgomery. These guys are still pictured in and around the squad. There is one or two other ones as well that I've not totally ID'd. So again, if you've spotted them still in Portugal with the squad, comment down below if they're not on the board, and I'll add them in to make sure we're covering it. Because it's nice to see that some of these guys are getting the full pre-season treatment, as it were. But if we have a look at the subject of the video today, which is the winger department, at first glance, it does look like we have numbers, we have depth, and maybe we have some options when you think about how important Forrest is to the fans and to the squad, of course, as well as the quality that we have in Dyson, the high level of expectation we've got around Negren. But Brendan has just made comments this week that's confirmed that we're not going to see Jota until 2026, so there's no point in even thinking about him in the depth chart and the squad quality that we've got to attack the Champions League to start off the majority of the season, if not the first half. And yeah, Jota can just not be thought about in the preparations for this season as things stand at the moment. And when you do take out these fringe players out of the equation, and if you were to chase Yang out the door as well, we very quickly are left with just Negren, who many of you wanted and suspected, or whatever, him to be the central kind of playmaker replacement that we've not really had for the last little while. And it's quite easy to see, I think, until we do sign another winger, he is just going to hold the space out here in the right wing in the absence of Nicolas Kuhn, and in lieu of any other signings coming in. Maybe as things go on, he could be developed into a bit more of a central player. But one thing that we have seen in this pre-season already with the likes of Jude Bonner, and I've not seen the game, but by all accounts from you guys that I've seen in other media and other social media I've been checking out, is Negren actually did a very similar role in the minutes that he had, where he was a winger, he was a wide player, but off the ball in that kind of rest defence position, he was coming into midfield a bit more and being a bit more narrow. So I think that's something that we could see as an evolving play style at Celtic, that one side of the pitch, the wide player, is going to be a bit narrow. Maybe that means the other player can be a bit wider, or maybe that gives the space for Dyson to be the secondary forward, the kind of foil to whoever the target man is here. And we've seen Ben Summers have some flashes out in the wing in pre-season as well. A player that I would have pinned more as a midfielder, but with his diminutive height and the techers he's clearly got, I don't think he'll be too uncomfortable in the wide areas. So maybe he's someone that comes into the reckoning if Yang is to leave. I don't really think these reports are, I don't think we're going to be offered enough money for Yang where it makes a lot of sense to like throw him out and then rely upon maybe someone like Palma to cover his role. Now, Celtic here did uncover a story ourselves that he's been training with his boyhood club back in Honduras, and if Palma was to really screw the nut, the job that Yang kind of grew into being able to do, play effectively in the final 10, 15, 20 minutes of a game. Palma can cross and can shoot. He should be usable for 5 or 10 minutes. He's sadly not been. I've not been his biggest fan. I've actually, on this channel, I think we were the main channel that's been kind of calling for this guy to be ousted out the team. I think we were the ones leading the charge on that, and there's no U-turn on that, don't get me wrong, but I'm just kind of looking at it how it is. If Tilio does leave, if Palma does leave, if Yang does leave, we now, as it sits, need to sign 3 wingers, because nobody really wants Negren out here. I think we do still want Dyson to be an option through the middle, despite how many options through the middle we already have, and we can't think about Jota being in here. So with the exception of Forrest is the only winger we actually want to be on the wing for Celtic. I think Dyson is kind of in that camp as well, but again, he does not everyone's cup of tea, and again, like I said, everyone fancies him to play inside a bit more. So you know, it's hard to imagine we do that level of winger business, which means, like, does Yang stay, does Palma stay, does something else happen? I don't know. We do need more wing support, but because if we do let Palma go, which I would expect us to, same with Tilio, Yang we're probably quite agnostic to, we're on the fence with, but it really puts us under a lot of pressure in a big way. Could Yamada be a bit more, could he maybe play a little bit of that Negren job, like a kind of pressing forward that's maybe not meant to be the winger, but can come inside and play football a little bit? Who knows? Let's see how that develops. Isiguzu and Kenny probably don't really have much of a first team picture this season, the way things have started, and Osmond does seem to have been brought in for it. So again, a player that doesn't really strike me as a winger, but maybe could play wide forward on occasion, depending on the shape and the composition of the team. Now, the website we built our transfer shortlist on is sadly no longer with us, so we've had to migrate all that information onto a new website, so it might look a little bit different. We don't quite have all the same names and faces in the shortlist that we used to have for a few different reasons I won't bore you with, but there's actually been a lot of activity in our transfer shortlist that we made here on the channel over the last couple of months, for the better and for the worse. Now, we're coming into this shortlist now hopefully looking to pick out some wide players, some wingers that we already know something about that could add something into the team. And the top name here that probably jumps out off the page is Michel Ange Balikwisha. Now, by all accounts, we're still pursuing this deal. We're still looking to get this deal over the line. And if Yang was to leave and we brought in Balikwisha at a cut price, because there doesn't seem to be anyone else actually in for him, and he does seem to be somewhat damaged goods. You know, there's not many people, there's no one interested in him but us, and we're managing to negotiate the fee down and down with time pressure on our side in this deal. I would expect the Balikwisha move to happen. Is it directly correlated or linked to the move of Yang? I'm not too sure, but it does make moving Yang out a lot easier. We know Forrest isn't going to go anywhere, and we really want Forrest to be winger 4 or winger 5 in the depth chart. Really, if you think about when Jota comes back in, this is probably not a terrible position to be in wing depth wise, but for me, for the Champions League, with how Balikwisha is a bit of an unknown entity, again, Negren isn't really the winger everyone wants him to be, or maybe he is, let's see, but everyone fancies him to play in this position here, don't they? It still feels like there's another winger to be gotten here, and let's see how the Balikwisha one actually shakes out. Balikwisha can play all across the front, but he's mainly a kind of left wing inside forward type that could either dovetail with Daizen Maeda, share the 90 minutes with him, allow Daizen Maeda to play through the middle, or, you know, like similar to Jota. Jota was way better on the left than on the right, but when Jota came back, because of how good Dyson had got on the left, if you remember the first time Jota was here, Dyson had to play right wing so we could play Jota on the left, because that was the kind of net gain, the best way to do it. But then when Jota came back, Dyson had went up so much that it went the other way. So Balikwisha, I wouldn't be surprised if he was adapted into being a right winger, coming inside on the left foot to allow Dyson to play on the left and maybe give us some other versatility. And there's a bunch of players that we have in the shortlist here that fit that same kind of criteria, fit that same type of mould. One of the ones I would have been the most excited and interested for Celtic to bring in would have been Marius Broholm, who is a bit of a player that's broke onto the scene in Norway. Although Sverre Nypan, who's a bit of a wonder kid, is maybe going to go to Man City or Aston Villa or whatever. This guy's kind of broke into the team and done extremely well. Also, I've likened him in the past, not in terms of level or ability, but play style. You know, when you watch a guy, he reminds you of somebody kind of similar to David Silva, quite feisty, doesn't mind a wee yellow card, has that bit of magic, has that eye for goal, very selfless player in the team as well. He's actually moved to Lille, which is a high value transfer. They're replacing some high quality talent that they've lost this window, and I expect Marius Broholm at 20 years of age going to Lille, he's probably going to kick on and do quite well, but sadly not one for us. Jonosuke Suzuki is went for €1.2 million to Copenhagen. Inamura seems fine, but that guy would have been a way safer bet to be a first-team contributor for us and go into a kind of quasi-rival of ours. I don't know if I'd quite call them a rival. Kind of just highlights how slow off the mark we can be with some of these targets. Now, when we went to scout Balikwisha, part of the rumour, part of the word that came back from that scouting expedition was that Noah Siddiqui and Franjo Ivanovic were players that Celtic were interested in. Well, Noah Siddiqui has actually moved to Sunderland in the Premier League for mega money, and Franjo Ivanovic will now only leave USG for a fee of 20 to 25 million euros. So we're not going to be actually pursuing them anymore. Borja Sainz, who was a bit of a playmaker, a bit of a maverick at Norwich last year, I thought would have been a great addition into our team, has just moved to FC Porto for around 16 million euros or something, so an opportunity missed there. I know some of you guys probably don't want to give Norwich any more money, and I can get behind that, of course. Raul Moro, who was a player we were very closely linked to in January, is all but set to complete his move, if he's not done it already, to Ajax, who again, would you say they're a bit of a quasi-competitor of ours? I would suggest they are. Jordan Torunariga was a free transfer centre-back who's now went to Hamburg in the Bundesliga. Pedro Vite, who is one of my top midfielders I would have loved us to sign this window. Looks like he's on his way to Mexico. And George Campbell, one of the top defenders I would have liked to have seen us go for in terms of bang for buck wise. Maybe not someone to replace Carter Vickers, but certainly to replace Naroki and Lagerbielke, is probably on his way to the English Championship, so that ship has sailed. And Kasper Jander, who would have been my top pick alongside Pedro Vite to really reinforce the midfield, to give it some fresh blood, players that can lift the level, players we could maybe sell on for a lot of money, is maybe on his way now to Stuttgart for 10 to 15 million euros. So we've maybe missed out on Kasper Jander there. But the rest of this list, actually, once we remove Joe Chima Fujita, who's moved to St. Pauli, is still filled with a bunch of players we could actually use and could make a bit of a difference. Now, one of the players that really got a lot of fanfare and a lot of love here on the channel when we previewed him was Oliver Antman. Not too sure how you can say it without it sounding like Antman, but Antman. Finland international, right mid, but is like a right striker kind of as well. This guy was super effective in the Eredivisie. Go Ahead Eagles won a cup this year. If you want to check out the video where we went into more detail previewing Antman, 5 goals, 7 assists in his last 15 matches. A really effective player, breaking onto the international scene as well, and scoring very well in the Eredivisie, which is it's ranked in the top 7 leagues in European football, if you want to stretch it that far. Is a player that I think would make a difference to our squad, as someone that could come in and could be versatile enough to maybe even play in that Adamida position as well as in right mid, right wing. A guy that likes to press, likes to win the ball back, but he's still available. And I think as a right mid, as a right wing choice, this guy would just be right up Celtic Street. Under 25 years of age, a youth international, he's won something already, and profile, versatility, athleticism, he really ticks all those kind of boxes. A guy that's maybe not quite as obvious in that regard, but I think when you look around European and world football for who's like available, and really like what's been disappointing with some of the business that we're not doing is that some of our competitors like Bruges and Ajaxes and Portos are actually bringing in some really exciting players, are actually going into the top 5 leagues and signing really high caliber talent to make their season better and to help finance the future, as it were. And if we're not going to take that step up this transfer window, which I'm beginning to doubt as time goes on, like I'm really hopeful that after the Champions League qualifier, we dip into the market and we sign high caliber players to really make the team a lot better. But, you know, with that type of trepidation we've got at the moment, Kylian Corridor is a left winger with a lovely right foot. Guy loves to cut inside. He loves to score goals. He's a big assist maker. He's a big set piece taker as well. At 24 years of age, is a very well profile. This guy's available for like 2 or 3 million quid. Should be right down Celtic Street. And him alongside Antman, I don't think these are deals that would take too much heavy lifting for Celtic to get over the line. And with the glut of wingers that we're about to have, we need to get like 2 guys like this in at the very least to kind of maintain the competitive level we've got in the squad. Diego Luna is a very exciting player as well, who looks to be on his way out of America. That's kind of happening now. His agent's doing a bit of work trying to drum up interest in Europe, and this is a guy that did very, very well in the Gold Cup, really rose to prominence in that kind of national team setting under Pochettino. Is maybe a bit more of a number 10, a bit of a maverick, but a guy that's definitely on the move. And if we are after another winger who You know, if this guy was to play understudy to Daisen Maeda, I don't think it would be a problem. I think he'd quite gladly take the challenge on and would see him develop across the season. And his versatility would come into play. I'm sure he could play on the right as well as through the middle at times. But again, a guy that's motivated to move and someone we should be looking at. One of the things I really liked about the Balikwisha links when they first came out, and just overall the whole thing entirely, is that he's a top of the food chain level target, similar to Kyogo and Daisen Maeda were when we brought them in. Jarno Stoikers at Genk is one of those guys as well. Similar to Antman in terms of position, maybe not quite play style. He's a bit smaller, a little bit feistier. Jarno Stoikers, same level of versatility, but very much a guy that will cost money to get out of Genk. Very much top of the food chain, a high quality player that would make a big difference. And him on the right, Balikwisha on the left would be a nice little bit of balance also. But one of the players we've actually been linked to over the last couple of days, and I think this is a winger play more than a fullback play, is Flavio Nazinho. Now, this guy is currently at Cercle Brugge. He's a Portugal under-21 international, plays on the same side of the pitch as Paul Bernardo, as we like to call him here on the channel. And this is a guy that is not going to break into our first team straight away, barely gets into the team for Cercle Brugge, as you can see here. He comes off the bench very frequently. But if we have a wee look back this season at when he played, he mainly played as part of a back five, playing left mid. There was some occasions as well when he did start matches that he actually played left wing in a front line. Here we've got a 3-5-2 against Jagiellonia here in the Conference League. Same again in that second leg. And Kortrijk playing left mid here, where he's playing much more as an attacking fullback rather than a back five type shape, you know. And if you go all the way back through when they had Kevin Denke up front, he was a main assist maker with him being in the team. And even towards the back end of this season here, he's played left mid, he's played left wing in a 4-2-3-1 shape here against Beerschot in a game that they won. So I think this player would be a guy that could certainly come into the squad and add something into that depth for left back and left mid, and would really be maybe not quite the Swiss Army knife player that we know we're kind of needing the squad somewhere, but someone that definitely has two bases they can cover for off the bench, for fixture management and rotation and whatever. At 21 years of age, youth international, feels very Celtic-y, doesn't it? And it's just going to all be about the transfer fee. If we can get a transfer fee that Celtic are agreeable with, I think this could be a deal that moves very, very quickly. But to be honest with you, that looking at the way it sits, that would make me think the Balikwisha thing might not happen as much. I'm not too sure. Like with Kuhn in the squad, the wings just felt so much more like, okay, we can roll with this until Jota comes back. But without him and without any sort of real replacement, and then when you further compound that with, we might just get rid of the rest of the wingers, we quickly go from having way too many of these guys to not having enough. And it is worrying, just from a perspective of we don't know what's going on, how we're actually planning on managing this kind of turnover of players, because the best practice for this thing, as we all know, is to get the replacement in before you move guys on. And it feels like this window, the main thing Celtic have been up to has been that kind of spring cleaning, getting the laggers and then the Rockies out and everything else that we're trying to do on the side with, you know, maybe Tilios and Yangs and Kwons and whoever else. But yeah, if we were to bring in Balikwisha and Flavio, I think that would probably make this side of the pitch look pretty solid, look pretty nailed on. And it maybe just needs that other right winger to maybe take the pressure off Negren being a right winger all the time, where maybe we could play Balikwisha, Daisen, we could maybe do something else with another winger. Maybe the other signing could be that guy, of course, that's the ideal situation. So then you've maybe got Negren as an option to play in the middle here, which all you guys are telling me is something we should be looking at, and I kind of agree with on the whole. But all of this really takes away resources, brain space, whatever, from do we actually need an upgrade still at centre back, and where is our sixth midfielder that we need to come in here and like finish off the puzzle, as it were. These are still huge areas of development that Celtic need to be putting money, time and effort into. And if we're really now scrambling around trying to fix the wings all of a sudden, you get worried that we maybe don't come out of this window with a stronger defence, we don't come out of this window with a stronger midfield, and we're just about trying to keep on par with one in, one out, you know, which has always been kind of the Celtic way over the last couple of windows, which is very frustrating. But yeah, I think Flavio and Balikwisha, if they both come in, you know, it would make the picture look a lot better, don't get me wrong, but it still doesn't feel, you know, let's just take away the edges here. It still doesn't feel finished, does it? It still doesn't feel like we've quite got the symmetry across both sides here. It feels so reliant on Negren that if he was to come out, we know we can play Forest, but like, he is a year older. He is going to be effective domestically in the league, but we don't want to be starting him in Champions League. We don't want to be starting him in Champions League qualifiers where at all avoidable, depending on opposition. I'm sure he could do great. Obviously, love Forest. Would love to see him score in his 17th season with much less stress and drama than last year. That would be great. But I think he's getting my point, you know, that Forest, we want him to be the fourth winger in the squad, not the third, maybe the fifth. Oliver Antman, Killian Corridor, Diego Luna, Balikwisha, Flavio Nazinho. There's been a lot of kind of names we've spoke about in the video today. Maybe there'll be some more ones linked to us by the time this video comes out. So if this video has missed something, maybe because of when it was recorded and when stuff came out or whatever, again, feel free to leave comments down below and let me know your thoughts and feelings, anything we've missed, anything you would add into the conversation as well, of course, in terms of, you know, where we are for the wings. Would you keep one or two of these guys? What would you do with them? On screen are now some other stuff that we've made that the YouTube thinks you might enjoy. If you haven't done so already, please do hit the subscribe button for more content like this. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss it anytime that we go live here on the channel, as well as drop out a new video. Hail, hail, and Mon the Hoops.